Jujutsu Kaisen just went beast mode. Mechamaru continues his fight with Mahito, wanting to win, but does he win? There was a lot of action to break down from the wizards at MAPPA, but as well, we got a lot of character in this episode that I think is just great, so we're here to break all of that down. We pick up from the last episode with the amazing fight between Mahito and Mechamaru, and it really cannot be understated how great this fight was. Not only from the idea of just having a mech versus a curse user, which is a very unique matchup, but the animation from MAPPA was able to pull off a lot of really awesome stuff here. Last episode, I talked about Mechamaru's mech being a clear inspiration from Evangelion and things like Gurren Lagann, and I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I should take a victory lap here because even his mech makes basically the same sounds as the Eva units do in Evangelion. Just a neat little touch calling back to the past greats of anime. But we do figure out really why Mechamaru is doing this. He needs to somehow find a way to defeat Mahito and or Geto and get back to either Gojo or Miwa to inform them about the Shibuya plot. This is massive because if he does so, then he'll be able to thwart their evil plans and likely save many lives in the process. However, he has a tough fight getting through Mahito and Geto, as he takes note of. So, let's take a second to break down Mechamaru's Ultra Cannon attack, and while I think many people will hate a lot of the animation in this episode due to the dimming in these impact frames and in-between frames, I actually do forget the technical name for them at the moment, so please help me in the comments below. And it's also fair if you don't like this stuff, because as you can see, for people that like to pause and look at in-between frames, it's a really blurry mess, and people don't like that kind of thing. However, in action, it's pretty solid stuff as we see pieces of the dam be obliterated. Also, I'll talk about why it was in this episode later in the video, in case you don't know why they do a lot of these techniques. So the aftermath is also, in my opinion, wallpaper worthy as well. Actually, a lot of the stuff in this episode was wallpaper worthy. But we see the mech with vapor coming off of it, likely from the water that's vaporizing due to the frame heat and the dam in pieces, as water is rushing through the hole made by the massive mech. However, what I found really interesting, and I want to get your thoughts on this in the comments below, is that instead of having Mahito's run fully animated as he emerges from the smoke, they instead use these highly detailed single still frames that are made to look really dynamic, almost like a cross between the manga and anime, like 2.5D. The detail on them is incredible, especially on Mahito, who looks like an absolute monster, and the mech looking like a ferocious beast, glowing red from its core, causing it to shine red throughout the entire mech and the scene in general. I also even love the music in this moment and the text for this episode which pops up. These both are references to Evangelion, as they both look and sound strikingly similar. So after the opening, he continues his attack with the mech as they burst through other pieces of the dam. Even the mech itself as a whole charges through it while this amazing Evangelion-esque music plays. And I love the detail of the fish being caught up in all of the action. This could just be Mahito because he does this later, but it does remind us that these are two very unnatural beings fighting amongst nature, juxtaposing the power of these two wield and their abnormality in this scene. Maru then uses another amazing looking attack called Miracle Cannon. Maru charges up the energy within the mech's stomach, as you can see it almost being ready to burst with the amount of energy it's producing, burning red hot. This is a spectacle as the beam fires into the water, causing a huge splash of it to explode up into the air. As you can see, it's also done with so much detail and fluidity that it really is suspensefully breathtaking. That's what I would call the animation, really, in JJK as a whole, but especially in this moment. We even see what looks to be like a shark, but is actually Mahito using his shape-shifting idle transfiguration power to take that form and swim through the water. It's a great bit of continuity that I love there. Mahito goes to strike the mech, actually being able to knock the mech back for a minute, showing Mahito's immense power being able to take on a mech with, just his fists. However, Maru has a trick up his sleeve as he fires around into his shoulder, which does nothing at first, but then causes his skin and shoulder to bubble up in this disturbing way, catching Mahito off guard, which then allows Maru to follow up with some hard-hitting attacks like the mech punching Mahito across the forest into the ground, leading to a massive stomp that just obliterates Mahito. Ah, chef's kiss. This leads to Mechamaru running freely for a moment, preparing for the next attacks, and I really like this little bit here, quite a bit. It shows this mech isn't just a giant and lumbering mech with zero agility. It can move and move very well with a lot of agility, which we'll see later. Also, I like how Maru controls the mech, as it's different from Eva units or other mech shows. He has like a thread of cursed energy in the cockpit that he can manipulate to have it move in the direction he wants it to. It's a very neat touch. Then another big attack heats up, Pigeon Voila, which is another spectacle. Reminded me of something like a combination of Final Flash from DBZ and attacks that you'd see in like Gurren Lagann, where two energy orbs form within the mech's palms as he shoots the energy with stars around it like Gurren Lagann, twinkling like stars you'd see in something like Kill la Kill of all things, as Mahito evades all of it by using his shape-shifting ability, transforming into various other creatures. Super good stuff. Mahito, watching Evangelion, knows that the mech's power source is the cables on its back, which I thought would play something into this fight. It doesn't, so he severs them while Maru begins his next attack, channeling all of the pent-up need to see all of his friends in person again. However, in an amazing sequence, Mahito, with skin removed from his face and a little arms inside of his mouth, uses his domain expansion, self-embodiment of perfection, and oh my god, was this incredible. This attack was a visual feast as we see a bunch of grotesque hands as everything goes silent and they grab onto Mechamaru, destroying the mech with seemingly ease as the layers of hands and Mahito overlap onto each other, and some really dramatic, suspenseful, and amazing animation plays out as within seconds the mech is just done for, on the ground, as we see Mahito's monstrous face look onward. He then uses idle transfiguration, which causes the lights of the mech's head to go out. And inside the mech, Mechamaru plans his next move. Mahito then critiques his use of using emotions in battle as a fuel, which signals why Mechamaru lost his fight. He used his emotions and his need to see the others as a way to fight, which caused him not to think as tactically or as carefully as he should, leading ultimately to what we have here: a failure to communicate. If you get that reference, you get it. However, in a shocking moment, Mechamaru uses new Shadow-style Simple Domain, which catches Mahito off guard as he sends the mech spear arm through the torso of Mahito. Then the music hits, as he was channeling Miwa as he destroys Mahito as the mech screams like Eva Unit 1. As Mahito goes through all of his forms to try and find a way to save himself from the attack, sort of remind me of the T-1000 in Terminator 2, when he falls into the magma at the end and goes through all of his forms to try and survive. Then the music hits, and for a moment, MAPPA truly had me here. I thought, even though, I've read this manga, that Maru actually would kill Mahito here and kind of go off script to fight Geto. Except, that's really not the case, as in another shocking twist, Mahito comes back, and all I am thinking at this point is, how much can he keep getting away with? My heart was just racing here. I wanted to see him win this so bad. But even so, he calls for Mechamaru to come out, which creates a giant Mechamaru mech, which we realized that before this was all just his armor covering it. Now his true speed is unlocked, as Mechamaru, as quick as lightning, charges at Mahito, even landing a couple hits until the mech is destroyed by Mahito hit after hit. And all that is left is Mechamaru's true form as he goes to stab Mahito with nothing left but his body and some sort of blade of some kind. We then seamlessly transition into a conversation that happened before with Mechamaru and Miwa. During a conversation they have about friendship and wanting things to stay the same, and how Miwa even wants to get closer to him and that one day she'll come to see him. It's a very cute scene, and the animation for Useless is so detailed here as she plays with her thumbs, almost being a little nervous to say what she did here, as this is a really tender and close moment the two are having, but still being forthright with her true desires of wanting to get close to him and see him in person, all of them together as well. But Mechamaru is dead, killed by Mahito, and really, I can't lie, I wanted to see him meet Miwa and the others in person, and not really, I guess, defeat Mahito or Geto. I don't really care too much about that, but at least escape them, just so I can see them all interact. What would they say about his appearance? Would Mechamaru and Miwa hit it off with each other in romance form there? That's something we never really see in JJK, by the way, even in the last episode. The stuff we got with Yuko and Itadori was the closest we've gotten to any sort of romantic storytelling. However, this is the one time I maybe would have wanted to see it. Because, why not? This guy risked it all to heal his body and get back to his friends. However, all things good must come to an end. So, rest in peace, Mechamaru. You were truly a Chad. But the last portion of the episode focuses back on our main cast, really, but a lot of the other members, I suppose. We learned that a veil was lowered around Tokyo with a lot of these really awesome shots of Shibuya, of cosplayers and Halloween costumes. They really went all out designing some of these cosplayers. Some of them noticed that something is forming around Shibuya. It's a veil, as swaths of people are sucked into it. Nanami, Takuma, and Megumi are on the case, dealing with this veil in Shibuya. We get some really nice handy info from Takuma, who tells Megumi that when it comes to adding effects to the barrier of a veil, you can only apply things with cursed energy like spirits or objects, but not things like cell phones. So if you had one inside the veil, you'd get no signal, basically cutting you off from the outside world. Interestingly enough, though, is that normal people within the veil all are saying the same thing. Bring Satoru Gojo. This is shocking, because it shocks Nobara, causes Maki to perk up, and now Bito points out that there is no way normal people would know Gojo. So, to which I say, has he been on the internet? Interestingly, though, the veil isn't stopping anyone from entering, even cursed users or sorcerers. They just can't break it by force. So because of that, it would be easier to find the cursed user who lowered this and stop them. Neat little touch is that while she is telling them all about this, we see Nobara pick up a hair or something off Maki's back. I guess this is what they call the power of Nakama. I wouldn't know. Though they are all told that it's not their jobs here, actually. Their job, surprisingly, is to just be on standby of all things, which once again causes Maki to make this face. Even Atsuya and Panda are on standby as well, which we learned that they are indeed sending Satoru Gojo, and while the others start to argue inside of the veil, Gojo finally arrives, nonchalant as always, and I bet you good money that the next episode Gojo is going to flirt with some of these cosplay girls. Just saying. This episode was honestly spectacular, and the animation was amazing, but I can see a lot of people nitpicking the dimming and ghosting techniques in this episode. It was quite a bit, and while I don't mind it, I know that many people will complain about this and say, stupid crap like MAPPA is doomed to fail and that they're all horrible animators, But we all know, really, that that's not the case. It seems from what people are saying online, though, that the ghosting and dimming is required by TV laws in Japan to have ghosting and dimming in animation for certain action sequences to prevent seizures for those who suffer from them. And as a person who knows someone who deals with seizures pretty much every day of their life, this is, to me, a good thing. But also sucks that we don't have the option. Well, actually, we do. But it'll cost you a pretty penny as the raw animations are saved for the pricey Blu-ray releases. But let me know what you thought about this episode of JJK, and if you think the ghosting and dimming ruined your experience with the episode, if you are that dramatic. Financially support the channel through becoming a patron, which will get you access to my massive hour-long One Piece arc reviews. Thanks for watching, bye-bye.